taking part in the 2018 Brazos Valley Business Forum. Please enjoy this breakout session replay recorded by Water to Wine Productions. This video is presented in part by the Bank and Trust.
All right, good morning. Y'all ready to get started? Excellent. All right, we're going to start off with some introductions, and then we'll jump right into some discussion via already established questions, and then we will open it up to the audience. How's that sound? Great. My name is Blake Parish, and I am the Director of Marketing at Mays Business School, and I found out about 1 minute ago that I was going to moderate this panel, so here we are.
My name is Donny Hall. I am a multimedia coordinator for Texas A&M, but today so what does that mean? I do mostly video production, most of the viral video type stuff, social media that you see from A&M is stuff usually that I produce or we coordinate or outsource. And then I also own Studio 82, which is a video production company that does no work whatsoever for any A&M system, and basically where I've been freelancing for 16 years. So maybe I can give you game or insight with some of my experience today on this panel. And next would be Martin Hooper to my left.
Hi, I'm Martin Hooper. I own a company in town called Drift. We're a marketing and branding firm. We just celebrated 9 years in the area, so that's us.
And I'm Dr. Nancy Parrish. I am a professor over in the Department of Communication. I teach strategic communications, public relations, and now the social media certificate program.
All right, first we got to start off with understanding our audience, which is lesson number one, of course. So can we get a show of hands? Who are entrepreneurs in here? Who own their business or run their business? Okay, excellent. All right, do we have any public sector folks? Okay, excellent. What else do you need to know?
Oh, I was just trying to gauge the audience. Yeah, we were just trying to gauge the audience, get to know what's going on. So there's several prompts that we were going to run down kind of as a discussion level, but to make sure you get the most out of it, just start wrapping your head around the main prompt and any questions you may have. You've got a lot of folks up here with a lot of different kind of, it's like a free consultation if you play your cards right, basically, maybe you could figure something out to that extent. But yeah, want to run down some prompts?
Let's do it. Awesome. All right, we're gonna switch it up. So we're gonna start down there with Dr. Nancy Parrish. And how have you seen marketing tactics evolve with the rise of digital media?
Media tactics, coming out of the communication perspective, it's really about engagement, two-way communication, or having a dialogue with your publics or your stakeholders. What has happened is there's so many opportunities to actually get feedback and see how your company or organization is doing just by having certain type of engagement questions you can have on your Facebook posts or in tweets, and you can find out and see what your community is saying about you, or what they think about you, or what they would like to see happen. You also have noticed to see crisis communication being played out, especially in Twitter, where if there's a problem, more often than not, especially in the millennial generation, they will post on Twitter. And so you need to always be engaged with that within 24 hours. I tell my students, you need to always be monitoring and answer those questions within an hour or two, especially with the millennials. If you don't engage with them, there's about a 35% chance that they're going to go to a competitor and forget you. And so that is something that I really, from a communication perspective, and I teach this not only to the social media class, but I talk about it in all my StratCom classes. You have to have and make sure your two-way engagement is honest, it's truthful, you build trust by doing that, and your stakeholders or your publics are really going to buy into and start supporting you and believing in you and participating in various aspects, and they're very beneficial to you. And that's something that in the past wasn't so easily done. You had to do marketing surveys or things to that nature, but this way it's right there, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. It's practically free to get this information, which is something relatively new to, at least from the Stratcom field.
I mean, I agree with everything you just said about it, engagement being key. I would also say, just from a broader sense, Americans spend about 3 hours a day on social media alone. So when we're thinking about 10% of the average American's time is spent like looking at Facebook or Instagram, versus maybe traditional media sets and traditional advertising. Like, that's something that every business, regardless of what you're doing, if you're B2B or B2C, has to take into account when they're thinking about reaching new people.
Yeah, and then I'll speak on a visual media perspective. So the big thing with visual media and how to like kind of hook or impact is, how do you make people care, right? If you're in a different market that's competitive, or if you're in a market that builds loyalty with clients, how can you build a relationship with that with them? You can do that through storytelling, specifically, or lately what's been trending for quite some time is user-generated content. Now, what's that? User-generated content is when you have people taking photos or their own videos or their own reviews of various things and posting that. And as a business, you can actually find people with large followings on social media, and you can get them to do reviews, to take the photos, to do some of your legwork, and a lot of agencies work closely with that. So that's what we're seeing a lot of these days, is people occasionally spending a lot of money on some hero content to get your brand out there, to get the awareness, to have the image you want, and then to also have it on the other front, where sometimes a picture someone took with their cell phone of your food does better than what you spent $20,000 on a campaign. And you're like, well, then why am I doing this? You know, so that's kind of a visual media perspective on some of that.
I'll give a quick answer and then we'll roll on. But what comes to my mind is thinking about in the past that someone would be watching a TV show, say on prime time, and that's all that they had. They only took that in. Now what you're seeing is the multi-channel all at once. So one person could be watching TV on their computer, tablet, and phone. And so there's multiple ways to engage them in a relevant way. So going way above the tactical level, you want to engage them. You want to have that strategy to get them. But now there's so many more ways to reach them, which adds complexity, but also opportunity. Right on. Any follow-ups? Good. All right. How has digital media changed your role? Let's go, Donny.
Yeah, so digital media continues to evolve, I guess, is a thing. So you're only as good as what you keep up on. So where are your resources? Where do you go to look to keep, kind of abreast of trends, things that are happening? Personally, I go for filmmaking techniques or anything. I don't even think you need to go to a film school these days, because just about anything you need to learn about digital media is already for you. YouTube, self-consumable. You can Google almost any subject in YouTube and become an expert within like a 3-day weekend. That's just a society we live in. You're just as likely to call a repairman as you are to Google how to change something on your dryer. And that's going in a lot of directions. So people are using your social media now a lot more for utilitarian purposes. If you have a service that does something and you can give them some free game or some free tips, those are some ways to engage an audience, because people are looking for ways to do things, and they're looking to solve things themselves. And that's a huge way people are using video. Vloggers and whatnot definitely plays into that a lot. But the way it's changing, it's getting more controversial and it's getting more polarizing. One thing that I see is people choosing a political side, or sometimes doing some stuff like that can get them some very positive or very negative results, depending on what's going on. But it's a way to get attention, and if attention is the currency you're going for, then there are ways to do that. But it's, you have to look at the risks and measure where you want to spend your time.
I would say for us, with the rise of digital media, like design work as a company that started as a design-focused company has become more of a commodity, right? So as the global market shrinks, as there's more services out there that focus on building a website in 5 minutes or something like that, we've had to kind of shift our efforts to be more strategy-focused, right? So In the digital sphere, you're not only worried about how good something looks now, but making sure it's communicating the right message, and your voice is consistent across social channels, the website. If you do like digital TV and things like that, you really want to think about your strategy across the board when you're reaching out.
For me, as an instructor, it's actually I have to learn a lot more in regards to social media, or because I've been a professor for about 15 years, and convergence was big when I first started in academia as a PhD student. And so what has changed basically for me is that even though in PR you still deal with the same issues, you actually now have to think about the social media aspect and how do you communicate with your stakeholders through that field. It's been a godsend for a lot of my students, because as social media has developed, there's fewer jobs in the media, in journalism and PR. But if you have that knowledge of social media and how to connect with your stakeholders and how to do citizen journalism, you're more apt to get a position. You're going to be able to bridge and go into the 21st century, where older people may not in the past, been able to do that. So it's actually been a godsend in many ways. I've had to study and learn a whole new way of doing things, but it also has said I take the same basic things that I learned 15, 20 years ago, and I just change it to social media and how we deal with in a social media where everybody's connected and things move so fast, and how textbooks for social media are actually, the minute they come out, they're already old school. You can't use that. And so my students actually don't even read textbooks. We read what's going on in the web and what people are saying, because it's just too fast. So that has changed quite a bit.
So for me, over at Mace Business School, we do the marketing and communications department. So we manage the publications, the website, all of the pieces that are going out from a college level. And so in my role, I think what's really expanded is my need for resources towards digital media, which include thinking about accessibility and security. And then also, Dr. Parrish spoke about social media being relatively free. It is sometimes in the way of paid media, but there are costs associated with being able to manage and to stay on top of that. So, with someone, it says, hey, you know what, the competitor's doing social media marketing, so we should do that. Well, yes, you should, but what's the right amount of resources that you're going to apply to it? What are the time constraints that you're going to put in order to manage those levels that are required now? So it's not just hey, we're going to do this and it's going to be successful. You start with the end in mind, which is engaging your customer, and use the digital media tactics to go that route. All right, gang, what are some common misconceptions about utilizing digital media platforms to boost marketing efforts?
All right, I can grab that one. So I think a lot of people think about social media ads as being something that's ignored by a large percentage of the population when you're thinking about sponsored posts or content that's out there. I think it's because most of the time when people notice advertising across social channels, they're annoyed by it, right? So you don't notice the ones that you interact with favorably, that feel like they belong on your feed, or feel like it's natural to see that ad. You notice the ones that feel kind of aggressive or out of place. So one thing we try to focus on when we're creating campaigns is making sure we're building something that feels native to whatever platform that's on. So that may mean something different from Facebook, something different for Instagram, Snapchat, across all these channels. And I think that's a big misconception, is people see ads as an annoyance, so they don't think it's going to be as successful as other mediums. But if you're creating the right content, I think it can be even more successful and more engaging than traditional media.
Oh, and I was just going to add, I think it's like repairing a car. You can't fix it just by throwing money at it. And I think a lot of people think a big ad buy is more effective than a good strategy. So I think that's one of the things to see is if things aren't working, don't be afraid to change stuff up. Don't be afraid to shift strategy. Markets move back and forth, and I've seen people make minor adjustments and have a much bigger impact across platforms.
Go ahead.
I also would add to both of those is you can actually humanize the content. It is mediated, but at the same time you can humanize it, and doing so, give real responses. Don't let a user-generated, to figure that out, artificial intelligence. Humanize it, be on top of it, and that will again go back to engagement and trust and developing really good relationships with your stakeholders.
All right, so let's start with, let's say that some of these audience members are out there and they don't have their digital media in place. What are some pragmatic ways that they can get started?
I mean, that's a really loaded question. I think for me, it's about figuring out how you want to communicate and where your target audience is. So if you're, aiming for a certain demographic, you need to make sure you're on the channels that they're already on. You're not going to pull teenagers and college students back to Facebook to view your ad, right? By and large, they are abandoning that platform and moving towards things like Instagram. It was Snapchat, but they kind of made some mistakes and they're falling off now. So you need to make sure that wherever your target audience is, that you are targeting the right demographic, and I think that's the right platform rather. That's the best place to start.
I would also add to that, once you have your demographics and you know where you're going to post, I would really brand, but be consistent in the branding and have the same voice throughout your platforms. That would be very helpful. And also have user-generated content. We kind of discussed that earlier, but definitely have people post things and pictures of food or various aspects where you have maybe a contest or you ask people to post various things on your website and be very engageful. I think that is something, and don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to ask a question and just take risks. That's what I tell my students is don't be afraid. If it doesn't work, you can fix it.
Yeah, and I think there is a little bit of a stigma in business sometimes to worry about competition or to worry about what other people are doing that do the exact same thing as you. Stick to your originality, stick to what makes you the best with what you have to offer, and tell that story effectively with visual media, and then you'll just create your own lane. Collaborate with people you view as your competitors or people that don't stay up late at night because you see a competitor posting an ad that looks great or visual media that looks great. Skim down to the numbers and you can see what kind of engagement that they're getting with stuff. And in a perfect world, you shouldn't be worried about what other people are doing as what you're doing. And if you focus on your efforts on your own digital media, you'll get greater benefits in that way. That I found anyways. I tend to be more collaborative and try to be helpful to everyone, and that builds an environment of I don't know. Community? Yeah, we're all here together. We're all gathered around this giant university trying to make our businesses work and trying to live better lives, and I think that's something that we forget when we want to be the best at something.
I would just say that everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. But you first have to have a plan, but you're going to anticipate that it's going to change. And like this panel has talked about, that you have that ability to be flexible, to be nimble with your digital media campaigns. Don't get so many layers between whoever that decision maker is and the actual posting, the actual writing, etc., that it will take forever to make an adjustment because things will change. One more moderated question, and then we'll jump to the audience, and I'm looking forward to the audience participation. What's next for digital media?
Virtual reality. I'm joking. No one's going to use that. Some of the AR stuff is kind of trendy, kind of fun. Augmented reality. We're all just going to come back as holograms. I don't know. I think people are going to I think we're going to see a decline in some kinds of social media. I think you're going to see a lot of people that kind of dive into it and get fed up and unplug completely. So how are we going to adapt to reach those people? And then from a visual media standpoint, the quality of what people can get with video and photo. You're going to see a lot more people producing giant ad campaigns using their phones and using, it's going to get smaller and it's going to get more competitive. So what's going to win is strategy and ideas.
Yeah, that's what I say. I mean, I don't think it really necessarily matters exactly what comes next, right? If your strategy is sound, if your branding's sound, whatever platform you're communicating on, you're going to see good results, right? So social media is there's always the next big platform that's supposed to come out, and most of the time everyone signs up and then it instantly crumbles and folds. But I think it's important to pay attention to those because you don't know when it's going to be the next Snapchat or the next Instagram. So it's important to kind of keep your finger on that pulse when we're talking about social media, so you're not left behind when your competitors might be using those channels.
I would also add emojis, even though you're seeing them now. They're huge. My students, I polled them the other day, and they said they have more, and it goes actually with a trend in the United States, is that the Generation Z and of the millennials actually feel more comfortable using an emoji for the emotions than using words. That's a little scary, and I have 166 students in my class, and they were all there that day. And I was like, holy cow, this is scary. But emojis and the creation of them, and the Gen Z and the millennials are producing these and creating them. So that's something that is, to me, relatively astonishing. So
Can I add to that? So I would also caution, though, if you're not a company that can pull that off, don't. Because like if you start using emojis and your audience may be younger, but they feel like they're, being patronized, like it comes off as like, hey, fellow kids, like we're lit. And it like, it doesn't work, right? So I would say being honest and being transparent about who you are as a company. And if you're not a company whose voice is emoji friendly, then don't like force that. But if you have that audience and have that engagement, then go for it.
I resonate with all these, just saying that you start with a strategy and the tactics will come. One tactic that I've been paying attention to lately is audio. So it seems like we're back to, cassette tapes and those types of things. Not really cassette tapes, but actually listening in the car. But it's a lot more customizable. Well, cassette tapes are back, aren't they, Donny?
I love them.
Okay, all right. So apparently we're putting on a mixtape from this panel next.
Yeah, we're going to be dropping some hot fire.
All right. So anyway, yeah, what I'm hearing is that audio is the new mobile, and thinking about the smart home assistants, the Google Home, the Amazon Alexa, how are we going to take advantage, be a first mover, really add value in those realms? All right, we're going to move to audience participation time. Don't forget that this session is sponsored by Lamar. Thank you. Can I get some questions? Raise a hand, and I'll bring you the mic. All right.
Hey, you referenced making sure you know what channels are relevant. What channels in today's market are most relevant to young families?
I would say young families, you're going to see a split across Instagram and Facebook primarily. Facebook, the kind of elder millennials, I guess, those of us that are 30 plus are still hanging around on Facebook, but most of us also use Instagram as kind of a primary means of communication. I would say when you're thinking probably 40s and up, you're not going to see as much response on Instagram, but they are still there. It's going to be more on Facebook. Another thing I would kind of add to that, and talking about audio, it made me think podcasts are showing like great return on investment right now. People are very loyal to the podcast they listen to. There's a ton of podcasts about like niche markets that you can go target, and they trust the presenters when they read those ads.
I was wondering if you would suggest to continue to generate content even if you're not seeing like you have a wide following at a point in time. Is it important to continue to like weekly posts and such, like consistency, or should we more be focused on like bigger events and bigger single posts rather than consistency of content?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. Like, what industry are you talking about then? I would say you want to engage whatever community you have built, right? You don't want to abandon those people that are there, but also you don't want to come off as someone who is just filling the void with noise.
So I think you know, a lot of people would typically see a role for social media and marketing, advertising in B2C type businesses where you're really reaching directly to customers. But I'm just kind of curious, you know, do you see a role in B2B type businesses, and what is the role of social media, if there is one, in a B2B strategy?
So one platform that you obviously want to think about is LinkedIn. So there is a role there, and again, having a strategy. So you may not be reaching a consumer, but there is something that you are selling that is going to capture the attention of, say, a buyer or a leader in a business that you are trying to sell to. And so it's a little bit different a one, and then also think about those times when they are going to be on LinkedIn. Maybe it's that someone has added them as a friend or whatever you want to call it on LinkedIn. And so there's this moment where they're going, hey, I've connected with this person. This is a joyful moment for me to expand my network. And then you've got the opportunity to jump on the bandwagon there to say, hey, I'm going to serve up relevant content, relevant information, so that you can connect with them with whatever your goals are. So absolutely, there's opportunities for B2B in digital. It's all about trying to reach them with the right message, right time, and the right person. And one over here.
With the new business, should social media be the only way that they try to get their message across, or should they use other platforms such as TV, radio, print?
I can speak on TV a little bit or something. So TV and that stuff, I mean, yeah, again, it always depends on your business, but you generally can't go wrong, especially, I mean, so I'll just speak on the strategies I've seen without speaking on the exact, and this is from a more like a local small business level. I see a lot of people that do have some success with a lot of the local news stuff. I do see some people that get some visibility with certain kinds of specials and things. But if there was a magic bullet for this stuff, everyone would be using it, you know. I think you have to diversify, and branding and strategy are maybe more important than exactly where it's going. But I mean, there are people that just do really well with billboards. There are people that do really well with certain targeted types of print ads, and it just depends on identifying where those are.
I agree with that. You have to diversify. I don't know what your business is, but depending on your demographic and who you're trying to attract will depend on where you're predominantly going to focus your advertising. Millennials and Gen Z, you can definitely social media, because that's what they no longer read magazines. They don't even watch television. My students are on Netflix. That's it. They don't even have a TV, most of them. It's very different than when I was an undergrad. So it all depends on your demographics as well. But I would diversify, definitely.
I mean, the only thing I would add to that is that it's social media is like a lower barrier of entry, right? Like versus the ad spend for TV or magazines or things like that. So I wouldn't say long term it is the only route, but short term when you're starting, it is probably the easiest way to instantly generate some awareness for a young brand.
What about older demographics? You know, older baby boomers, 55 and up, higher net worth. Anything besides Facebook in social media, or what other media do you suggest?
I mean, there's some of the older demographic on Twitter, not as much. I think Trump in a way has helped that in some ways. Like his tweeting has gotten an older demographic to kind of embrace that platform as a method of communication. But I'd say by and large, Facebook is probably your best bet for that generation. The other thing you can think about, and this is not digital, but pieces like direct mail pieces, mailing list, things like that, email list, that generation tends to respond better to those. And kind of the flood of going digital has left a vacuum in pieces coming to your mailbox. So if you can create something that is attention grabbing and it's not just going to be tossed, that baby boomer generation responds to that.
I want to build on that, just saying that yes, that it's huge disruption now to get direct mail, to actually receive physical mail, but the challenge is to convert that into a digital media. So do you put on there a unique URL, or is there something to scan, or how can you get them into your basically marketing automation so that you can retarget them off of something that captures their attention? The biggest thing that you want to do, whoever it is be able to get them to stop scrolling and figure it out. So if that's direct mail or whatever it is, it takes quite a lot of work with how much noise there is in the market these days. Who else has questions? I think I saw her.
Yes, I had a question about, we have a Facebook page for my business, and sometimes we put things on, and the videos always get a lot, but of course Facebook's wanting me to advertise, you know, to reach out. Is that usually viable to do that?
I would say yes. It can be, depending on your clients or what your business is, but it is definitely. You started small, which is something that that I've learned you always do, is start small, and once you get a good following, ads are helpful. They can reach more clients, potential clients for you, and they will be driven to your Facebook page, see what you're about, and then you can go from there. But I've been, the data that I've seen, it is beneficial.
Yeah, and I've seen some stuff that says good marketing makes your company look smart. Great marketing makes your customers feel smart. So I think one thing that you see is you can't predict with video what people are going to engage with. Last year, shooting video just at Texas A&M, a video I took of it snowing on campus got 1.2 million views and has nothing to do with anything but keeping brand and A&M in the front lobe of your head. And then a video we put a lot of production about something no one cares about just doesn't resonate, because why should people care? You know, so it's about trying to find out where people's hearts are, what they want to see, and then they'll get into it, you know, for video anyways.
And that was kind of an organic moment for on the snow on campus, right?
Yeah, they didn't pay $1 for that. So, well, they paid, you know, I don't know what I make an hour over there, but whatever. That's for 1.2 million views. You know, if they spent maybe like $40 with me, I think they did pretty good. You know.
I would also add really quickly that Facebook's algorithms are shifting more as people got really upset with Facebook kind of selling their information. You gave it to them for free. But anyway, as that's trending, Facebook is going to show less and less business pages to people. They're really trying to shift more to it being about friends and family, which means the already small percentage of your followers that would see your organic post is getting even smaller. So Facebook advertising and setting a budget to advertise on Facebook is I won't say essential, but almost essential if you want your community to be able to see your post.
One quick note that is just something that I've discovered lately. We put on the 50th anniversary for Mays Business School recently, and something that I found is that when we were going through the tactic of posting video, post natively on Facebook your video, instead of just having one link of YouTube and then linking your Facebook to that YouTube. Because who owns YouTube? Google. Who wants advertising dollars? Google and Facebook. So Facebook doesn't want to point them to a YouTube link. And so, you know, some of those videos that we produced and put solely on YouTube, they had views in the teens and maybe hundreds. The videos we put on Facebook and did it natively, we had in the thousands. And so huge, huge key point there.
And a real quick tip, while I have just a captive audience, if you do have an iPhone, make sure you go in, because by default your iPhone isn't recording at the highest quality settings. Go into your iPhone camera settings and set your settings to 4K at 60p, and you will notice a considerable higher quality video that you're getting from your phone. Oh, sorry, at 4K 60p, and you just have to make sure you have some space in your phone or you're going to run out. But yeah, 4K 60p on your phone, you'll notice a considerable jump in quality of the video taken organically from your phone, which is a big deal when you have products or just little one-off videos.
Regardless of what you're interacting with, any of these social media, there used to be the time where participating in any of those was helping on your SEO. All those engagements were helping with your SEO, your website, but is that still true? Do you still see that happening?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Google is their job is to show people the content they're looking for, right? So they're going to take social interactions into account. They're going to take new content on your website into account. That's probably the biggest driving factor, is making sure you're putting out new content, because with Google's algorithm, they don't want to show anything that they might be old or outdated. But social is a way that they use as kind of a measuring stick for how many people are interacting with you.
And I'll just add along with that, update content constantly or, quite frequently is good, but also have alt tags, because alt tags can also lead you higher in the alt tags. They can lead you higher up in the SEO and such.
I mean, and while we're talking about SEO, I guess, Google also wants things to be mobile friendly. Like over 50% of the web now is viewed on a phone or a tablet. So they're going to punish you if your site isn't responsive. Like, they're going to knock you down in the ranks. Even on a desktop search, they're gonna move you down. So making sure all your languages are up to date on the website, and I'm speaking of coding languages, and then that it is mobile friendly and responsive. That is going to help you rise. Yeah, I mean, we see it a lot in the local market, because a lot of people haven't updated their website in 10 or 12 years here. I think this area is kind of lucky that that's been the case, but we're starting to see that when we update a client's website, they instantly jump, because a lot of other websites are out of date, basically.
This has been the best breakout session that ever happened. I want to thank everybody. All of you individually made it happen today. It really came together. Thank you.
That was amazing. Just one quick last little point before I release you for lunch is that, so SEO is search engine optimization. One thing is that it's not always going to be those very obvious problems that you have that are going to be knocking down on your door for you to create the best solution. So at Maze, we've got a website with 12,000 pages. It's crazy to manage. We recently, in the past few months, went to a secure protocol. Again, accessibility with alt tags and secure protocol. Nobody was beating down our door to get our website onto a secure protocol, but we did that, and we saw a 17% increase in organic traffic, purely related to that. So when you work on your business, it will help you. So think about that, and we're going to be around, I think. I don't know, Donny may have to break out of here for something, but you okay? All right. We're going to be around. Happy to chat. Look forward to it. Thank you guys for being great.
Our thanks to Water to Wine Productions for recording this breakout session replay from the 2018 Brazos Valley Business Forum. This video was presented in part by the Bank and Trust. More information on the Brazos Valley Economic Development Corporation and its mission can be found at brazosvalleyedc.org. We also invite you to be part of Invest Brazos Valley, the BVEDC's private sector voice in growing our community.